Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Coach Kurt Johnson. On behalf of ANSIG, Brian Cummings and I are here to talk about book flipping on Saturday morning live today. So come on in. You can hit the start party if you want to. Invite your friends. We're just going to have some fun as these two road warriors share some of their stories and treasure maps, if you will, as we move forward here today. I know it's a little bit before the top of the hour, so I'll give everybody kind of a minute or two to roll in here and join us. And David is with us. Hey, David, if you want to let us. Hey, Sarah. Morning, morning. If anybody wants to give us some feedback here, give us some love. How's the audio and video coming through? Ms. Lisa in the house. So she's probably, knowing Lisa, Brian, multitasking. This is like the sixth thing she's added to whatever she's doing right now, watching us.
No, I'm sure she's just paying 100% attention to us.
Hanging on our every word, huh?
Mhm.
We love you, Lisa. EBS could not function without you. Joanne, welcome. Good morning, everybody. Awesome, awesome. Okay, sound and video look good. We are at the top of the hour. Hey, this is Saturday Morning Live. Welcome, everybody. Every Saturday morning, we at the E-Commerce Business School come just bring you some complimentary training for whatever you're doing out there. And today it's a little bit more specific in the e-commerce world because we are going to talk about book flipping today and sharing some tips there. Good morning, Lee. Lisa said, quit telling her secrets. Okay. All right. So we do want to welcome all the new members. We have hundreds of new members this month, literally, and just want to say hello, welcome. We really value the trust that you put in us here at the E-Commerce Business School to help you along the way to fulfill what you want to fulfill. We are a results-driven mentoring company with lots and lots of support, and so we value your trust very, very much. And many of you will also be joining me in the boot camp on Monday morning, the new members, and so I look forward to getting to know you even better there. And so, Brian, before we head into books, Brian Cummings here is the Executive Director of Coaching and Training. Anything else you want to say to the crowd or about the E-Commerce Business School, about what we're doing here, especially to the new members, before we get into the material we have for today and have some fun?
Yes, we do have a Facebook group, a private group that you can join if you haven't joined already. So your new members, you should have joined that. If you haven't, please come over there at ecommercebusinessschool.com. Just search for that in your Facebook page and you'll see it show up in groups. Join us, come in and take part in the conversation that's going on over there. So there's lots of good content that's on that page. Also, we want to get to know you. So introduce yourself. Tell us what you want to do with your e-commerce business, what you're interested in selling. Let us help you and guide you and join in.
Absolutely. And we will answer questions at the end. We've lots of what I promised last Thursday, whenever it was, Brian. We have dozens and dozens of new book flipping members too, and we promised to help them along the way I did. So I'll stick around for questions later. And so, guys, these are blue blocker glasses. We've got a bunch of young men on our corporate team that are just awesome, and they all wear these. And so I thought, well, hey, these 60-year-old eyes, I want to preserve them too. So I've been wearing them more and more. Anyway, okay, well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and dive in and have some fun and show you a little bit about what Brian and I have done, over him a lot longer than me, over the years in terms of book flipping and sourcing books and all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and talk a little bit through Brian. Whoop, didn't mean to do that exactly. Hold on. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so what you're seeing now is Google Maps. And Brian and I small in the corner, and hopefully all those electrons came through okay. Going to go check the panel here as we're getting into the material now. Everything's looking good. Hi, Ann. Hi, Rich. Hi, Minerva. Hi, Jeannie. Hey, Debbie. Hello, Renee. Hi, Kim. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome. So, yes, you are seeing Google Maps here. So, Brian Cummings laid out the book flipping profit system. When he brought it to the community, he had a little test group. I don't even know if he was aware of it, but I was following him in the wake of a couple people that he was mentoring. I was following behind and learning, and then the first time book flipping profit system was presented was at a live event. And Brian did that. So after that, I just went home and started diving in and doing it. And one of the resources in the book flipping profit system is a site called the Book Sale Finder. And so I started using this to find book sales, to find books, to source it. And it really became a lot of fun. So over the course of 3 or 4 years, I developed a system that my wife and I used, and a lot of you have heard my story, so I won't go into it, but my wife started to go with me to book sales, and pretty soon she was really deep into it in the children's books category. And make a long story short, we'd plan many weekend trips. We'd take off on Friday afternoon or evening and go to a book sale. I'm going to show you how I planned the whole trip here, and come back sometimes that night. Oftentimes we'd spend the night. Oftentimes we'd then find other book sales Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon as we drove by. So we kind of did a loop, if you will, by using this tool in Google Maps. It's really easy. You know, Brian, the nice thing about it, before I showed them specifically what I would do, I'm just going to give an example here. It's the nice thing about it too. It's all tax deductible. Having a home-based business like this is a cool thing, isn't it?
Yes, and the travel is deductible, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Now, do you get more per mile when you drive that big monster thing than I do, or do I get the same mileage deduction that you do?
Well, we get a different mileage deduction if we do actual cost rather than that, 50 some odd cents per mile.
Yeah.
You can do it either way.
Yeah. How many gallons per mile? Anyway, I'm just teasing. Yeah. I'm jealous. I want one. So, okay, let's go ahead and dive in. And Brian, anything along the way here that you see or miss or that you did that I didn't do or ever, let's just have some fun. So this is what I would do. Sometime during the week, I would jump in here and plan our weekend. It became a date night or a date weekend. And so because I live in Illinois, it's real simple here. You just click on the state that you live in and go to that state and find out what sales. It's laid out really nicely here. And there are other resources you can do this with too. So here we are. It is May. And so I would just look, first of all, in Illinois to see if I'm looking for a larger sale. Now, in my mind, at a minimum, when we go in here, I'd be looking for at least 10,000 books. There are other things to look for, but at least 10,000, preferably 25, 50 and up. So that would be my hub. That would be my center. That would be our main goal. What big sale is coming up within a certain radius that will be the main event of our date/travel tip? And so here we are. And by the way, I like to drive. Everybody's different. You got to apply this to you. I'm just going to share with you what worked for my wife and I. You apply what might work for you. And so this is where we used to live. And because of a mobile lifestyle, we now live south of Miami. But anyway, we did this for 3 or 4 years, and so I would just draw a circle. We went as far as we loved the Indianapolis area, not so much Milwaukee, but Madison sometimes. So we would just draw a circle like this. Sometimes Bloomington, Champaign. We actually. My wife went to St. Louis. There's a couple sales down there she really liked. So, and I joined her for a couple of them. She'd go on her own. So it was just like a 5-hour radius if there was a big sale, and that would be the centerpiece of our road trip. And so, excuse me. So we just go in. What day is it? We're at the 17th now. Okay, so we have a clearance sale in West Allis. We didn't really do Michigan, but you could. So I would just go in here, Lancaster. No, that's a little bit too far away. See, when you go into Book Sale Finder in your state, you're going to see the ones that are in your state. When you see like big sale or clearance sale, that's actually paid advertising. This sale in Michigan is paying to get more exposure all over the country about their sale. And so that's how that works. So you're, well, Kurt, you're in Illinois. Why does it have Golden, Colorado? It's basically paid ads. There's other paid ads over here too that you might want to look at. There, we found a great resource by looking at ads sometimes. So anyway, but I'm looking primarily for Illinois. So I'll just go ahead and click into they're also listed down here, but I'm just looking for a big sale that might be going on this weekend in Illinois. If I find one, great. If not, then I just expand from there. So here's one in Chicago, 12, and this is the data that you'll see. You'll see what day it's on. You'll see where it's at. You'll see the organization that's putting it on. I like libraries the best, but other people do it too. 1,200 books. That ain't worth my time. So I said, nah, no thanks. But I happened to drop down here. Oh, 50,000. That grabs my attention. 50,000 books. But it's a bookstore. So overall, Brian, my experience has been bookstores, even when they do sales like this and advertise on Book Sale Finder, the prices are much higher than like a library sale or a thrift store. Is that correct? Did you have the same experience?
Yeah, a little higher and probably picked over because they're there all the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So I'm not seeing anything in Illinois that is immediately grabbing my attention. And again, guys, it would take me an hour probably to plan the trip, and I'm just going to give you like a 5 or 10 minute overview here. So we'll be missing some stuff. But again, I just want to give you the idea so that you can lean into in whatever way you want to, so some of the ways that I did this. Okay, so I click on over. What I did there is I went over, okay, let's look at Wisconsin. Is there anything north of the border here that's looking good? Again, we've got those that are selling up. Now this one grabs my attention. Bloomington, Minnesota. I've been to Bloomington many times. That's about 5 hours for me. Gives me an excuse to go visit Lisa Celine. And so, anyway, and actually, my wife and I did that once. So Bloomington, Minnesota. So I'll go ahead and click on that one. Even though it's not this weekend, I could take that as an example. I didn't pre-plan this at all, guys. Okay, I didn't pre-plan it at all. Just wanted to give you an example. Okay, so the Crime Prevention Association is having its 27th annual Bookum sale. Great, awesome, more than 150,000 books. Excellent, that's probably worth my time and the trip to go on up there. And so all sorts of books. So I start reading it in a little bit more detail to plan this weekend. And I do, if at all possible, want to get there on the first day and the first chance that you have exposure to the books. Okay. Now, thanks to Brian and his algorithms, if you can't, you show up the second, third day, it's all good. You're still going to find books, but your greatest potential will be to get there when the doors open. And again, here it is. Preview May 31st, Friday, 5 to 9. So I'd want to get there Friday at 4 o'clock. You'll probably already see a line started. And it's going to cost me $10. That little bit of money, $10, or if it happened to be a library to join their friends for $10 for a year, it amazed me. Some people need to get a better business sense. That $10 always far more than paid for itself. To pay that $10, join their friends. I'm friends with a library all over Wisconsin and Illinois. Even if I only went there once, it's worth it. So if they nick you a little bit to go in early, absolutely go in early to get that first exposure. So another thing you really want to make sure of, there's some other things. I'll let Brian point out anything else. This you definitely want to make sure. No buyer restrictions. Okay, what that means is that sale or that library lets you use your scanner. And you say, well, wouldn't all of them? There's some purists out there, particularly at libraries. I call them purists. That's my word for it. Basically, they don't like their books being sold where they know that person's not going to read them and love them. Okay, and God bless them. They don't. They're there to make money for their library, and they don't want to sell more books. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I have understanding of their mindset. They just love these books and love their library so much they can't handle and fathom someone buying that book and not loving it and reading it and just reselling it. That doesn't register for them, so go away scanners. So I guess I didn't need to get on that soapbox. So just make sure there are no buyer restrictions. If it doesn't say this, and you're going to travel and all that, you'd want to contact them first. Call them. You can visit them on Facebook and so on and so forth. So I'm going to stop there. This looks good to me. I like they even say here, prices $1 or $2. It gives me enough details to say, and I got used to it enough, I wouldn't even have to call or contact them. Yep, I'm headed to Bloomington, Minnesota on May 31st. And then I extrapolate it from there. So that's my centerpiece. Brian, do you have anything to add there before I show what I did from that point?
Kurt, have you been to this sale before?
I have.
You have, yeah. In the chat box here, let me click on go. There's a couple of pictures online, and I think people might like to see them. So I just put it in the group chat. If you just click on that link, it'll bring up a Google image search.
Oh, you put it in Zoom chat.
I put it in Zoom chat, yes.
All right, okay. All right, I'll click on it right now.
Okay.
Here we go.
And then you'll have to find the photos. There's images, but there's like 3 images in a row of the sale to give people an idea of what 150,000 books or more looks like. It's a pretty big sale.
Okay, there it is. Okay, this is the actual sale then, yeah. Yep, looks familiar. Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if people can tell how far back the walls go on this.
Let me see if I can make
so
that.
Kurt, I imagine you scanned all 150,000 books. Did you?
No, Brian, I know you're being facetious. What would happen when we go to the sale? Now, again, this is just my wife and I. As soon as the doors open, my wife is so funny. She'd head towards the children's books. And if there were kids in line, she would say, "Oh, I got competition." I mean, little children, 3 and 4. I said, "Honey, you gonna go elbow that 6-year-old?" We had fun with it, but she'd hightail it to the children's books. We did a training on what specific children's books to look for. I'm not going to cover that today. And normally, I had 3 or 4 categories in my mind, Brian. I really did it for fun. When I say we did it very part-time, I mean that. I wasn't going to go to like textbooks if it was crowded and throw elbows or anything like that. I'd look over, in your sheet that you gave us, you give categories there. I would just go over and say, "Oh, that one, oh man, that's too busy." Sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't. So I just I'd categorize. Nope, I'm not going to do textbooks and all that. That's there. So normally where it ended up, I would end up at military history first because it was the least high enough on the rank that it was a good category and not crowded. So I just take my first shot at military history. That kind of was my default thing. Unless textbooks happened to be open and it was a not crowded sale and things like that. But maybe, I don't know if you want to extrapolate on that thought, Brian, but that's how kind of my wife's and I modus operandi as we got in the groove.
Well, I think both of us enjoy military history. So, you kind of gravitate towards it because you recognize those books, and I do the same thing. I would often, if the textbook section were really crowded and I wasn't the first person to get there, I might go over to the arts and crafts area because I know there's going to be some real expensive sleeper kind of books, as I call it.
Yep.
Because other book scouts kind of ignore that area.
Another area book scouts ignore, and I would usually do this last. I'd check in with Kay, maybe scanning 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, blah, 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 and she's still going strong. But I'd spend my last hour actually at the coffee book table. One is I like coffee table books, the big ones. I found everybody else ignored them because they think they're not profitable because of the size and the shipping and all that. But when you're doing FBA, boy, I found some gems in doing that besides like looking at them, big. I remember buying a huge book once, that no one else would ever consider. And I think I made $50-$100 on it, because we are able to factor in shipping it to Amazon is all I have to do. They're going to pay the price, or the customer will, if they're not Prime from that point on. So anyway, a few little tips there. All right, let me finish this, Brian, because I know you have something else to share here too. So that would be my center point, okay, guys? So then what I would do, okay, I'm going to be going up to Minnesota, and I'm not going to go into any more detail. I think you grasp the concept. I'm heading up to Minnesota, going to be there May 31st, was it? Yeah. So what I would do then is on the way there and on the way back, I would look for smaller sales along the way because it's already worth my trip to go. So what I might do at that point, again, using Book Sale Finder, I would go back probably I'm already in Wisconsin. Okay, that wasn't advertising. So I'd look, and it's delineated by date, right? Here we go. It's delineated by date right here. Is there, that's terrible English, but are there any sales going on in Wisconsin on my way there or back that I could pop into since I'm traveling that way anyway? So for instance, here's Madison on the 1st. Maybe on the way back, would I hit this sale? I won't know until I take a quick look at it. So I go pop in here, Madison, June 1st, Saturday, thousands of books. So I don't know what thousands is. That would never be my centerpiece location, but some books were moved to sell online. That also tells me a little bit that I wouldn't go to Madison just for this sale. But if I'm going by the Sequoia Library on my way back on June 1st anyway, sure, I would swing in there and see what that is and take notes on if that sale is any good or if it isn't, and pick up a few more books, a handful of books, or whatever. So, Brian, that's kind of the gist of it. We'd plan our trip, get one of those hotel discount clubs, or in your case, RV, whatever it is. We'd enjoy ourselves, go out to eat, do some books on the way if it made sense with the date and times of other sales, do it on the way back, or maybe go a little bit farther, maybe even go down to Des Moines if there was a big sale there on Saturday. Who knows? But just take an hour or two, plan the trip. And that was my wife's. In this case, obviously, it would be an overnight date trip, but plan your trip, have some fun, enjoy it. And there were times there have been many times, several times, that we would just take a car and we'd just have to stop buying because we'd weigh down a car with so many books we couldn't buy any more books because I was concerned about the shocks on the car. And if I was really optimistic and felt it was going to be a really big sale, I'd actually rent a bigger vehicle to go for that weekend. We did that many, many times. So, Brian, that's my story. Sticking to it. Owe you a debt of gratitude for teaching us all this, and I know you have some stuff you want to share now too, and I'll try to get back over to Facebook and see what's going on there.
So there's a question from Anne. She says, I'm going to the Friends of the Library sales where libraries mark out their stamps with a Sharpie or tear out things that damage inside covers before sales. Do you still buy these books? And if they're marked out, I don't hesitate to buy them. They'll put discards sometimes on it. They'll put their library stamp. They'll take a marker, as you mentioned, and mark all that out. And I just note that there's markings on the inside of the book or on the inside cover page or whatever that might be that they have there. Now, if the book is damaged because they've been tearing out pages, no, I pass those by. And Kim is asking, what app are you using to scan with? I use the Scoutly app. It was formerly called FBA Scan. I've used that app for many years. There's some other good apps out there, but that's the one that we recommend in the Book Flipping Profit System. I was just thinking about my trip, the biggest trip that I've done for going to library sales. My wife and I bought a motorhome online in Wisconsin, or in Arkansas, and we live in Northern California. So we flew with our dogs, believe it or not. We flew to Texas, rented a car, drove to southwest Arkansas, bought the motorhome. And then I took 3 weeks. My wife couldn't stay that long. She had to fly partway back. But I went from, especially after I dropped her off, I used the book sale finder and went from library sale to library sale to library sale, library sale, all the way across the country back into California. That was quite a trip.
How many books did you end up with, Brian?
I had to ship them back. I had so many books that they wouldn't fit in a motorhome, and they wouldn't fit in a motorhome. I had that happen to me once too. I was down in North Carolina, and the car, it just wasn't going to work. Went to find a U-Haul. They were going to charge a lot for a one-way trip, and I ended up shipping a pallet of books back to my house. So yeah, it can be really fun when you get a pallet. Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to show my screen here. Let me move that over, and I'm moving an app over, and let's see. Share. Okay, let's see how this works. Wow, it's really big there, a little larger than I had intended, but I think this will work. So I want to talk about going to yard sales. My wife is really a avid yard sale person, and in fact, she's out at something called the Big Event right now, which is a neighborhood sale here in Reading. It's actually raining today, and she's out there at yard sales. So we would go together, and it's another togetherness thing, just like Coach Kurt and his wife. Terry and I would go around on Friday and Saturday mornings, hit yard sales up, and we would use this app right here called Yard Sale Treasure Map. So I've got my phone in front of me. Let me tap on that. And you do need to pay for this to get data every day of the week. I think it's $5 a year. It's not too expensive. So you can see here that I can move it around on my screen here. And all those red dots are sales for today. See where it says Saturday? So we don't want to go to all those sales. And what you do is on the hamburger here, these 3 lines, just tap on that, and then you can type in books. And you want to make sure you type in the plural. If you just type in book, you're going to get bookcases, other words that have book in it. So type in books, plural. And here you can see that we have 7 results on this. You can tap on one of those and it'll point it out. And then tap on that and you'll get description right here. And you can actually, if you want to map this out, not only will it give you directions, but you can map out from one sale to the next, to the next, to the next. And I like to change the color on the tags here to put the time. So I'll change that one to yellow if it starts at 8 o'clock, purple if it starts at 7 o'clock. And so I can kind of look at the map, see all my color codes on there, and know which ones to go hit first. Not only do I search for that, yeah, there's the color. You can see how you can change it just like that. Not only can you search for books, but the other one you really need to be searching for, because not all yard sales will announce that they have books, is, I didn't get neighborhood in there. There we go, neighborhood. So this is, as you can see here, it's advertising that one called the Big Event. There's only 1 or 2 people that are actually advertising it, but there'll be about probably 50 homes there. It goes on every year here in Reading, so that's why they call it the Big Event. My wife is there now with scanning books, so hopefully she'll come home and we'll be a little bit richer for her time spent there. You know, it's a togetherness thing, and that's one of the reasons why we do it. We like to do this as a couple, but sometimes there'll be so many sales. And of course, this is a rainy Saturday here, so there's not very many sales in our area. But on a day like this, that would be bright and sunny, there'd be 2, 3, 4 times as many sales. And so then we do the divide and conquer approach. We both have the same app, and I'll take all the lower ones, you know, the south part of town. She'll take all the north part of town up here, and we divide and conquer on that. So even though we're not in the same car together, it still feels like togetherness because we're on the phone calling each other. Did you go to that sale, by the way? You know, what did you think about it? And did you hear anything? And then I might tell her, oh, I was just talking to this guy and he said there was this huge sale in your area. Make sure you don't miss it because of all the books. One more tip here.
Brian, before your last tip,
Yep.
Kay and I would do the same thing. She didn't like the little library sales. I did, because no one else would go there. And sometimes you just find some really good gems. So even if it was 1,000 books, you know, I normally would come out with at least 5, 10, 15, 20 books because no one else would bother to scan there. So anyway, having said that, I would drop her at the thrift stores because she, like you, also liked the thrift stores. I never cared too much for thrift stores, even though I did it. So why did you like? So we would divide and conquer in that way. I just wanted you. And sometimes we'd plot our mapping out with also thrift stores too. And what's the advantage, disadvantage of thrift stores? I know you really like those.
Well, the disadvantage of thrift stores is probably the same thing that you feel. It's that darn music that they play, and then the kids screaming in the background. Look, I just have to tune all of that out, and that's why I wear this here. It's a Bluetooth headset, and then I put this in both ears, and I can put on music or a podcast, but I'm also listening to my app, and it will go ding whenever I find a profitable book. Here's the Scoutly app coming up here. So The reason I like thrift stores is that they're open 7 days a week and many hours. And then I tend to go to the stores that have the most traffic as far as books, the most donations, because they'll put books out every day. And sometimes they put them out at a particular time of the day. They roll out this big, huge cart. It's about 6 foot tall. Goodwill stores use this same cart in many of the Goodwills. 6 foot tall. It's double-sided, so they have shelves, like 3 or 4 shelves on both sides, and they stack that up with books. About 1,000, 1,200 books will fit on there, and they roll it out. You know, it might be at first thing in the morning, and I'm there. It might be 3:30 in the afternoon because the book processor gets off at 5, so that's the last thing he does. I'm there at 3:30, and I'm taking advantage of that, and I clean up. So that's what you should do too.
And Brian, I found that you could talk to the personnel, the people, make friends with them. Hey, when do you restock your books? And they'll tell you, right?
Oh yeah. They'll tell you when that cart's coming out.
Sure.
And I've been known to bring Starbucks, $5 Starbucks gift cards. My wife makes brownies, and we'll bring in homemade brownies. I've been known to treat those book processors a little bit and make good friends with them.
And then I interrupted you. Did you share was it that your last tip? I kind of interrupted you there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Well, let's look at questions, guys. That's stories from the Road Warriors. Yep. Amazon. If there's any questions you want to grab there, Brian, I'm looking at my other screen.
Kim is saying, I already forgot the name of the app you used, and we were talking about Yard Sale Treasure Map. That's the app for the yard sales. And I think it's good all over the country. And then the other app, of course, is the Scoutly app for scanning books.
And Walter asked, Brian, when you go to yard sales, do you go to all of them, or do you feel out which ones to go to?
No, did you see how many were on that map? No, that's why I type in books or neighborhood, or sometimes I'll type in school or fundraiser. And so what I'm looking for are larger sales where number of people will bring their stuff together, church sales as well. So those are the keywords that I type in, looking for those types of sales. I like church sales especially because people don't donate junk to church sales. In general, they donate nice stuff. They all know each other and they don't want to show up with junk. And so often they'll bring in some really beautiful books for sale at church sales.
Maureen asks, if you're a new seller and start with books, can that help you get ungated faster in other product categories?
In one way it can, Maureen, in that Amazon will apply restrictions to new sellers. And as you gain more experience, and Amazon looks at experience as far as the number of sales, the number of products you've listed, the number of sales that you've had, and the length of time that you've been on there. The more sales that you have, the more experience you get with Amazon. And so they start removing or lifting these restrictions that they put on new sellers. So it's not going to help you get ungated, let's say, in automotive category, but it will lift restrictions on brands, especially brands of books, as well as other brands of products if you're doing like local retail arbitrage.
And Kim asked, you only resell on Amazon. I've used Book Scouter, not to much luck.
Do I only sell on Amazon?
Right.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But Book Scouter, do you mean to sell on Book Scouter? I learned, I did do this, so I can speak from experience. I sold on Amazon, eBay, half.com when it was around, Alibris, AbeBooks, textbooks.com. There was, I think, one other that I sold on, all at the same time. I'd list the same book and put it on all of those sites. And Amazon resulted in 97% of my sales. All those other sites together were only 7% of my sales. It just turned out it wasn't worth the trouble to manage the inventory across all those platforms.
Jeannie asked, what app would you suggest for mileage? Tracking your mileage. I don't.
MileBug. I think that's the one we use.
Yeah, I'm looking at mine too. I use Everlance. So.
Okay. Yeah, MileBug.
Okay. Are there buying restrictions as with retail arbitrage? You kind of addressed that, Brian, but
Yeah, buying restrictions on books. Yes, there's some publishers that contact Amazon and put restrictions on those books. It's usually a few textbook publishers, and they have to do it book by book. They just can't exclude all of the books that they publish. So it's kind of a pain for them. And what I find is that sometimes they just get removed. We had, I don't mean the books get removed, but the restrictions get removed. The 7 Habits, all the Stephen Covey books, all of a sudden were restricted. This was about 2 months ago. And then about 3 weeks later, they're all available again. So if it doesn't work once, try again.
And the longer you sell on Amazon, I don't know their algorithms, but the more favor you get as long as you maintain a good account. I remember we got restricted for American Girl thingy, whatever. And right then and there, it just says there's an option. I can't explain it fully, but do you want to try to get unrestricted? So I just click, yeah, I do. So because we had bought some American Girl books, click the button, bam, okay, you can sell. So just because you see a restriction doesn't mean that you can't get ungated now or later. That one happened to be instantaneous. It didn't even, it was obviously was computerized, wasn't a live person. They just look at your account. Are you keeping your account in good standing? Then yes, you can. So don't let that scare you. Just keep moving forward, positively follow Brian's instructions, and you won't get in trouble. Sarah asks, when sourcing books out of town and having to ship home, would it be worth time to bring our printer, cleaning tools, and supplies and just process from a hotel room and ship from there?
I've done that, especially with our motorhome. It's easy to put a printer in there. And I actually bought a little inkjet printer. I know you're not supposed to use inkjet on labels, but the quality of ink is pretty good nowadays.
You didn't hear that here at the e-commerce business school. You did not hear that. Well, I'm teasing you, Brian.
I bought a little inkjet printer and brought that along. They even have 12-volt printers if you are mobile, but I brought one and I did that from the road. Didn't do it on that time that I did that 3-week trip because we flew, so I didn't bring a printer with me on that time. So the way I shipped those books home was by media mail, and you could pack up 50 pounds of books in a box, and it's very inexpensive to send it via media mail. 50 pounds, I think it was about $20 a box for 50 pounds, so that's pretty inexpensive. Sent them home that way. But yeah, bring a printer if you want to. You can always take them to an FBA, to a UPS drop-off area, a FedEx drop-off area. It's really easy to do.
All right, hey guys, we've gone a little bit long, but we wanted to answer all of your questions. If you are interested in the Book Flipping Profit System, you can check that link out, joinebs.com/books. Join us, and there's a big group starting right now, jumping in the boot camp on Monday, so on and so forth, and you're not too late to get in on some Brian's stuff that he's rolling out, including this last question is, Robert asks, is the bonus textbook online arbitrage in the July trifecta? The online textbook is a specialty even within books that Brian's mastered, and that is a bonus for those that attend the trifecta in July. If you're interested in the trifecta, leave a note here. We'll get back to you. You're going to be hearing a lot about that this next week as we're going to finish off filling the room next week with some sales there. So where can I buy my books online, and who can prep these books for us? Rolando asks, where can I buy my books online? I think this is the Rolando that doesn't live within the United States, so maybe he's trying to figure out, is this a methodology that you could do virtually?
Yes. Where can you buy your books online? Where all popular books are sold. Amazon is one place, but there's many other places. In the textbook arbitrage training, I talk about how to find these other sites, because you can often find them cheaper than the merchant fulfilled books on Amazon. It makes sense. You see if you're scouting for books and selling them on Amazon, you see the price difference between merchant fulfilled and FBA. Why not purchase those merchant fulfilled books, sell them FBA? You can certainly do that, and that's what we train on. And for prepping your books, we just did a live interview with Kathy Rasmussen of Prep Ninjas just last weekend, I believe. Let me check with her. I believe she does books as well. Many of the prep centers do not do books, There are some that do. I'll check with her, and then I'll post in the comments here about that.
Great. Okay, well, Brian, thank you again. Welcome to all of our new members here at the E-commerce Business School, literally hundreds this month. Looking forward to working with you. Thought it would just be fun for Brian and I to share some stories, little tips as you go out and source your books. This is just another edition of Saturday Morning Live. And keep your questions coming here, even if you're watching by recording. We'll keep an eye on that and answer your questions. So I would just encourage you to engage, move forward, have some fun, and you won't regret traveling with this pack. Any last words, Brian, before we call it a wrap?
Just come to our Facebook group and join in the conversation there.
Yeah, and love to meet you live, face-to-face in July in Minneapolis, too. Okay, thanks, everybody. Make it a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.